He was just a minimum-wage barista who stopped to help a crying stranger fix her broken car in the pouring rain. He had no idea she would walk into his coffee shop 3 days later as his new boss. The woman who now held his job, his future, his entire livelihood in her hands. But here's the twist that nobody saw coming. That one act of kindness in the rain was about to change both of their lives forever. This is a story about what happens when you help someone without knowing who they are. When you're kind without expecting anything in return. Because sometimes the person you save ends up saving you right back. Stay with me. You won't believe where this goes. Welcome to Reality Untold Stories. While you are here, please hit the subscribe button and comment your view on the story and where you're watching from. Section 1. The rainy evening. Let me tell you about Daniel. He was just an ordinary guy, 28 years old, working at a small coffee shop in downtown Seattle. Nothing fancy about his life. He made lattes, cleaned tables, and went home to his tiny apartment every night. But Daniel had this thing about him. He couldn't see someone struggling without wanting to help. It was a Thursday evening, and the rain was coming down hard. Not the gentle Seattle drizzle everyone talks about, but real rain. The kind that soaks through your jacket in seconds. Daniel had just finished a shift, pulling his hood up as he stepped outside. That's when he saw her. Across the street, there was a woman sitting on the sidewalk next to an old beat-up car. She was crying. Not quiet tears, but the kind of crying that comes from deep frustration. Her car hood was up, steam rising from the engine, and she was completely drenched. Daniel could have kept walking. Most people did. He watched as folks hurried past her, eyes down, focused on getting out of the rain. Nobody stopped. Nobody even looked. But Daniel crossed the street. "Hey," he called out gently. "Car trouble." The woman looked up at him, mascara running down her cheeks. She looked exhausted, defeated. "It just died," she said, her voice shaking. "I don't know anything about cars, and I can't afford a tow truck. I was trying to get home from the hospital. My mom just had surgery, and I've been there all day, and now this." She started crying harder. "I'm sorry. I'm so tired." Daniel knelt down beside her, rain soaking through his jeans. "Don't apologize. You've had a rough day. Do you mind if I take a look?" "I don't have money to pay you," she said quickly. "I already spent everything on my mom's medical bills." "I'm not asking for money," Daniel said simply. "I'm just asking if I can help." He'd grown up helping his dad fix things. Cars, appliances, whatever broke down. They didn't have money for repairs, so they learned to do it themselves. Daniel wasn't a professional mechanic, but he knew enough. He looked under the hood, checking connections in the dim streetlight. The rain kept falling. After a few minutes, he found the problem. A loose battery cable. Simple fix. He tightened it with his hands, getting his fingers covered in grease.
"Try starting it now," he said.
The woman got in and turned the key. The engine coughed once, twice, then roared to life. She let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. Daniel closed the hood and came around to her window. "You're all set. That cable was just loose. But you should have someone check it properly soon, okay?" The woman was staring at him like he'd just performed a miracle. "Why did you stop?" "Nobody else even looked at me." Daniel shrugged, rain dripping from his hair. "Because you needed help, and I could give it. It's not complicated." "What's your name?" she asked. "Daniel. Daniel Porter." "I'm Rebecca," she said. "Rebecca Hunt." "Thank you, Daniel Porter. I won't forget this." "Just take care of your mom," Daniel said, stepping back. "Drive safe." He watched her drive away, then walked home in the rain, his clothes soaked and his hands covered in grease. He didn't think much of it. It was just what you do, right? You see someone who needs help, you help them. That night, as Daniel lay in bed in his small apartment, he thought about his life. The coffee shop job barely paid his bills. He'd never been to college, never traveled anywhere exciting. Sometimes he wondered if he was doing enough with his life, if he mattered at all in this big city where everyone seemed so important and busy. But helping that woman tonight? That felt real. That felt like it mattered. He had no idea that in 3 days, everything in his life was about to change. Because Rebecca Hunt wasn't just a woman with car trouble. She was the newly appointed director of operations for Pacific Coffee Corporation, the company that owned the coffee shop where Daniel worked. She was there to evaluate every location, decide which ones to keep open and which ones to shut down. And she was about to walk into Daniel's coffee shop. But we're getting ahead of ourselves. Right now, Daniel was just a coffee shop worker who'd helped a stranger in the rain. He fell asleep that night not knowing that one act of kindness was about to transform his entire future. Monday morning started like any other morning at the coffee shop. Daniel arrived at 6 a.m. to open up. He unlocked the door, turned on the lights, and started the first batch of coffee. The smell filled the small space, that rich aroma that made even early mornings feel a little bit better. His co-worker, Lisa, showed up 20 minutes later, tying on her apron. "Did you hear?" she said immediately. "Corporate is sending someone to evaluate us. They're closing down shops that aren't profitable enough." Daniel's stomach dropped.
He loved this job.
It wasn't glamorous, but the regular customers felt like friends. Old Mr. Patterson, who came in every morning for black coffee and a chat. The college students who studied for hours over single lattes. The young mom who brought her twins in every Wednesday. When? Daniel asked.
Today.
Right now, actually. The manager got an email this morning. As if on cue, their manager, Tom, emerged from the back office looking pale. "Everyone, listen up. We're getting evaluated today by corporate. Someone important is coming. I need everyone on their best behavior. Smile, be efficient, keep everything spotless. Our jobs depend on this." The morning rush started, and Daniel tried to focus on making perfect drinks. His hands moved automatically, steaming milk, pulling espresso shots, calling out names. But his mind was racing. What if they closed the shop? Where would he work? How would he pay rent? At 9:30, the door opened, and Daniel looked up from the espresso machine. His heart stopped. It was her, the woman from the rain, Rebecca. She was wearing a professional business suit now, her hair pulled back, carrying a leather briefcase. She looked completely different from the crying, drenched woman he'd helped 3 days ago. She looked powerful, in control. Their eyes met across the coffee shop. Daniel saw the recognition hit her face. Shock, then something else. Something he couldn't read. Tom rushed over immediately. "Miss Hunt, welcome. We're so honored to have you here. Can I get you anything? Coffee? A pastry? Anything you need?" Rebecca's eyes never left Daniel. "I'll have a cappuccino," she said slowly. "And I'd like him to make it."
She pointed at Daniel.
Tom looked confused but nodded eagerly. "Of course. Daniel, make Ms. Hunt your best cappuccino." Daniel's hands were shaking as he made the drink. He could feel Rebecca watching him. What was she thinking? Was she angry that he'd seen her vulnerable? Would this hurt the shop's evaluation? He finished the cappuccino, creating a perfect leaf pattern in the foam. He brought it to where she'd sat down at a corner table. "Thank you," she said quietly. Then, even quieter, "Sit down for a moment." Daniel glanced back at Tom, who nodded frantically. He sat. "You're the one from the rain," Rebecca said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, ma'am." "You didn't know who I was?"
"No, ma'am."
"I just saw someone who needed help." Rebecca took a sip of her cappuccino, her eyes never leaving his face. "Do you know why I'm here, Daniel? To evaluate the shop. To decide if we stay open." "That's right. I'm here to determine if this location is worth keeping or if we should shut it down." She paused. "This is awkward, isn't it?" "Yes, ma'am. You could have walked past me that night. It was pouring rain. You were off work. I was a complete stranger." Her voice was intense now. "Why did you stop?" Daniel thought about it. "Because you were crying in the rain with a broken car and I knew how to fix it. I didn't need a bigger reason than that." Rebecca leaned back in her chair. "Do you know how many people walked past me that night? At least 50. They saw me. Some of them definitely saw me. But you were the only one who stopped." She shook her head slowly. "I've been in corporate leadership for 5 years now. I evaluate businesses, make hard decisions about people's livelihoods. And somewhere along the way, I forgot what it feels like when someone just helps you because you need help. No agenda. No expectation of reward. I wasn't trying to. I know, she interrupted. That's exactly my point. You didn't know who I was. You couldn't possibly benefit from helping me. You did it anyway. She met his eyes. That matters, Daniel. More than you know. She stood up. I'm going to be here for 2 weeks, observing operations, reviewing finances, talking to customers. What happened in the rain doesn't affect my evaluation. I won't show favoritism. But I also won't pretend we didn't meet. Can we be professional despite this unusual situation? Yes, ma'am. Good. She picked up her cappuccino. And Daniel? This is an excellent cappuccino. As she walked away to begin her evaluation, Daniel sat there, his mind spinning. The woman he'd helped in the rain was now his boss's boss's boss. She held the future of his job, his co-workers' jobs, in her hands. And he had no idea what would happen next. The next 2 weeks were the strangest of Daniel's life. Rebecca came to the coffee shop every day. She sat in different corners, watching everything. She timed how long it took to make drinks. She listened to how employees talked to customers. She reviewed the financial books with Tom in the back office. And she watched Daniel. He tried to work normally, but it was impossible not to feel her eyes on him. He made lattes, cleaned tables, took orders. But he was constantly aware of her presence. On the third day, she approached the counter during the afternoon lull. Tell me about him, Rebecca said, nodding toward the corner where Mr. Patterson sat with his newspaper and black coffee. Mr. Patterson? He comes in every morning. Same order, same seat. Been coming here for years. Does he always sit that long? Daniel hesitated. This felt like a test. Yes, ma'am. He's retired. Lives alone. I think he's a little lonely. Sometimes we chat about baseball. He buys 1 coffee and stays for 3 hours. That's not good for business. Maybe not, Daniel said carefully. But he's a human being who needs a place to belong. Isn't that worth something? Rebecca made a note on her tablet and walked away. Daniel's stomach churned. Had he just argued with the person who could fire everyone? On day 5, Rebecca was there during the morning rush. A young mother came in, stressed and frantic, with 2 small children hanging on her legs. She ordered a coffee and a muffin, then realized she'd forgotten her wallet when she got to the register. I'm so sorry, the woman said, close to tears. I can come back later. The kids didn't sleep last night, and I forgot my purse and... It's on the house, Daniel said, handing her the coffee and muffin. Really? The relief on her face made his chest ache. Really? Just take care of those beautiful kids. After the woman left, Rebecca appeared beside him. You just gave away $6 of product. Yes, ma'am. That's not good business. Daniel turned to face her. Maybe not. But she needed help, and I could give it. Sometimes being decent matters more than profit margins. That's easy to say when it's not your business. Is it wrong to care about people? Rebecca studied him for a long moment. No, she said quietly. It's not wrong, but it's rare, especially in business. She walked away, leaving Daniel wondering what she was thinking. On day 8, Rebecca called him into Tom's office after his shift. Daniel's heart was pounding. Was he getting fired? Was the whole shop getting shut down? Rebecca was sitting behind Tom's desk, her laptop open. Sit down, Daniel. He sat. I've been watching you for over a week now, Rebecca said. I've seen how you work, how you interact with customers, how you train the newer employees. She paused. Why do you do this work? What do you mean? You're clearly intelligent. You could do other things. Why work at a coffee shop for minimum wage?
Daniel thought about it.
Because it's honest work. I make something people need. Coffee, sure, but also a place where people feel welcome. A smile when they're having a bad day. A conversation when they're lonely. He met her eyes. Not everything valuable shows up in a profit margin. You sound like you're judging corporate priorities.
No, ma'am.
I'm just saying there's more than one way to measure success. Rebecca leaned back in her chair. That night in the rain, she said slowly, I was at the lowest point I'd been in years. My mother had just come through surgery. I was terrified I'd lose her. My car broke down. I was alone, in the rain, and nobody cared. Her voice cracked slightly. And then you stopped. You fixed my car. You didn't want anything. You just helped. Anyone would have. No, Daniel. They wouldn't have. 50 people walked past me. You were the only one who stopped.
She closed her laptop.
That night changed something for me. It reminded me that business is supposed to be about serving people, not just extracting money from them. I don't understand what you're saying. I'm saying that this coffee shop, under your influence, does something most businesses forget. It treats people like human beings. Mr. Patterson isn't just a one-coffee customer who takes up space. He's a lonely man who needs community. That stressed mother wasn't an inconvenience. She was a person having a hard day who needed kindness. Rebecca stood up. You create value that doesn't show up on a spreadsheet, but it's real value nonetheless. Daniel didn't know what to say. My evaluation isn't done, Rebecca said. But I wanted you to know that I see what you do here, and it matters. After she left, Daniel sat in the office, his mind reeling. He'd helped a stranger in the rain, and somehow that had led to this moment. To being seen. To being valued. He had no idea that the biggest surprise was still coming. On the last day of Rebecca's evaluation, she called a meeting with all the staff. Everyone gathered in the coffee shop before opening. Daniel stood next to Lisa, both of them anxious. Tom looked like he might throw up. The other employees whispered nervously. Rebecca stood at the front, her expression unreadable. I've spent 2 weeks evaluating this location, she began. I've reviewed your finances, observed your operations, and talked to your customers. I'm here to share my findings.
The room was silent.
This shop barely breaks even, Rebecca continued. Your profit margins are thin. You give away too much product. You let customers occupy tables for hours without additional purchases. By traditional business metrics, this location is underperforming. Daniel's heart sank. They were getting shut down. All of them would lose their jobs. However, Rebecca said, and something in her tone shifted, traditional business metrics don't measure everything. In 2 weeks, I've watched something remarkable happen here. I've seen customers come in who are clearly regulars,
Who know the staff by name.
who trust you with their stories, their bad days, their small victories. She looked directly at Daniel. I watched an employee give away coffee to a stressed mother without hesitation. I saw the same employee spend 20 minutes helping an elderly customer set up a new phone. I observed staff members staying late to help a teenager with homework. None of this shows up in profit margins, but it creates something more valuable than short-term revenue. It creates loyalty,
Community.
trust. Rebecca pulled out a document. I'm recommending that this location remain open. Furthermore, I'm recommending systematic changes to how our company evaluates success. Profit matters, but so does community impact. So does employee care for customers. So does creating spaces where people feel valued as human beings, not just transactions. The relief in the room was palpable. Lisa grabbed Daniel's hand. Tom looked like he might cry. There's one more thing, Rebecca said, looking at Daniel. Daniel Porter, I'm offering you a promotion to assistant manager with a path to full manager within 6 months. Your approach to customer service should be taught to every employee in our company. Daniel couldn't breathe. What? You understand something that corporate training can't teach. You see people. You help without expecting anything in return. You create value that matters. Rebecca's professional demeanor cracked slightly. You also taught me something important that night in the rain. You reminded me why I got into business in the first place. Not to extract maximum profit, but to solve problems. To help people. After the meeting ended, and everyone else had left, Rebecca approached Daniel. Can I talk to you for a moment? Privately? They sat at a corner table, the morning sun streaming through the window. I need to tell you something, Rebecca said, and for the first time since that rainy night, she looked vulnerable again. When you stopped to help me, I was at a breaking point. Not just because of my car. I'd been working 80-hour weeks, making decisions that closed shops and cost people jobs. I was good at my work, but I'd forgotten why it mattered. I turned into someone who saw everything as numbers on a spreadsheet. She looked down at her hands. And then this stranger stopped in the pouring rain. Fixed my car. Didn't want anything. Just helped because he could. And I realized I'd lost something essential. I'd forgotten that business is supposed to serve people, not the other way around. I was just being decent, Daniel said quietly.
Exactly.
And that's what I'd stopped being. Rebecca met his eyes. You changed my perspective that night. Not just about business, but about what matters in life. And now I'm your boss, which is awkward and complicated, and I've been trying to stay professional, but... She trailed off. But what? Daniel asked. But I'd like to know you better. Not as employee and boss. As people. She looked nervous now, uncertain. My evaluation is done. The professional obligation is complete. Would you maybe want to have dinner sometime? Just to talk. Daniel's heart was racing. Is that allowed? I checked the corporate policy. As long as there's no direct reporting relationship, it's permitted. But Daniel, I need you to understand. I'm not asking because you helped me or because I'm your boss. I'm asking because I met someone in the rain who I haven't been able to stop thinking about. Someone who reminded me what it means to be genuinely good. Daniel thought about that rainy night. How he'd seen someone who needed help and just helped. How simple it had been.
How right.
Yes, he said. I'd like that. Rebecca smiled, a real smile this time, not the professional mask she'd worn for 2 weeks. Good. Because you fixed my car that night, Daniel, but you fixed something else too. You fixed the part of me that had forgotten why kindness matters. Outside the window, Seattle was waking up. People hurried past, focused on their own lives. And inside the coffee shop, 2 people who'd met in the rain were discovering that sometimes helping a stranger changes both of your lives. 6 months later, Daniel stood in front of the bathroom mirror, adjusting his tie. He still couldn't quite believe how much had changed. He was the manager now, running the coffee shop he loved. But more than that, he'd fallen in love with the woman he'd helped in the rain. Dating Rebecca had been careful at first. They were both aware of the complications. He worked for her company. People might think he'd gotten his promotion because of their relationship. So they'd been cautious, professional at work, private about their personal life. But outside of work, they discovered something real. Rebecca had shown him that thinking strategically didn't mean losing sight of individual people. Daniel had shown her that success could be measured in more than profit margins. They challenged each other, supported each other, brought out the best in each other. Tonight, Daniel had a plan. He'd arranged something special at the coffee shop after closing. He'd asked Lisa and Tom to help set it up. Now, he drove to Rebecca's apartment, his heart pounding. Where are we going? Rebecca asked as he picked her up. It's a surprise. When they arrived at the coffee shop, it was dark except for string lights he'd hung across the ceiling. Candles flickered on one table in the center. Soft music played from a speaker. Daniel, Rebecca breathed. What is this? This is where everything changed for me, Daniel said, taking her hand. This is where you walked in 6 months ago and turned my whole world upside down. I thought you were just evaluating a coffee shop. I had no idea you were about to change my entire life. He led her to the table and they sat down. Rebecca, before I met you, I thought I knew what mattered. Make good coffee. Help people when I could. Live a simple, decent life. Those things still matter. But you showed me that I could dream bigger. That kindness and ambition aren't opposites. That helping people and building something successful can happen together. Daniel. Let me finish, he said gently. You came here as my boss, and I was terrified. But then I got to know you. I saw how you transformed corporate policy to value community impact. How you fought to keep shops open by showing that human connection creates long-term value. How you balanced profit and principle in ways most executives don't even try to do. He stood up and knelt down beside her chair. Rebecca's eyes went wide. Daniel? 6 months ago, I fixed a stranger's car in the rain. I didn't expect anything from it. But that stranger became the person who sees me more clearly than anyone ever has. Who challenges me to be better while accepting exactly who I am. who taught me that love is about two people bringing out the best in each other. He pulled out a ring. Rebecca Hunt, will you marry me? Rebecca was crying now, but she was smiling too. Yes, she whispered. Yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on her finger, and she pulled him up to kiss him, both of them laughing and crying at the same time. I can't believe you did this, Rebecca said, looking around at the decorated coffee shop. This is perfect. You changed my life the day you walked through that door, Daniel said. You gave me opportunities one never dreamed possible. But more than that, you gave me yourself. Your intelligence, your passion for doing business the right way, your commitment to making things better. You changed my life too, Rebecca said, holding his face in her hands. That night in the rain, you reminded me what it means to be truly good. Not performatively good. Not strategically good. Just genuinely, honestly decent. You fixed my car, but you fixed something in me too. They sat together in the candlelit coffee shop, holding each other, both of them marveling at how a single moment of kindness had transformed both of their lives. Can I tell you something? Rebecca said. That night when my car broke down, I was actually thinking about quitting my job. I was so tired of making decisions that hurt people, of seeing everything as profit and loss. I felt lost. And now? Daniel asked. Now I run a company division that measures success differently, that values community impact, that treats employees as human beings with families and dreams, not just labor costs. She smiled. And I'm marrying the man who taught me that being kind isn't weakness. It's strength. Outside, Seattle continued its busy life. People hurried past the coffee shop, focused on their own concerns. They didn't know that inside, two people who'd met in the rain had discovered something beautiful. They discovered that helping without expectation creates connections that change everything. That one moment of genuine kindness can transform two lives. That sometimes the person you help becomes the person who helps you see your own worth. Daniel had stopped to fix a stranger's car, and in return, he'd found love, purpose, a future brighter than anything he'd imagined. And it all started because he couldn't walk past someone who needed help. Because that's what good people do. They see someone struggling and they stop. They help. They care. And sometimes, miraculously, beautifully, that simple act of decency changes everything. The end.